Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. This is the bootleg Cheech and McLovin show. Teddy Covers, remember that comment yesterday?
It was the best. I was talking about it all day. I was laughing and laughing. That's a great comment.
We get a lot of funny comments on these shows, but one yesterday just stopped me in my tracks when some guy said
call.
This is the Cheech and McLovin show. I'm a bootleg Cheech, you're a bootleg McLovin. Teddy Covers. All right, a lot of great comments. Thanks to everyone who's making comments and who's watching the show and enjoying it. And I took care of my verbal tics yesterday, and then I got a comment about my body tics from a commenter named AC on YouTube, and he said that you have very good posture on camera, that you stay within an imaginary box, but you don't look too stiff, but you stay within your box, and I fidget around with my body.
Well, you know what it is?
Yes.
But the truth of it is, like when I'm doing my show instead of your show, I'm wandering a little bit. I boogie a little bit, so it's a comfort level. I'm sitting
absolutely
here,
absolutely. And I've noticed that. Yes, I've noticed that the exact same thing. Where it's just like when you're the host, it's actually a lot harder to be a host because you have to maintain the pace and everything. You have to dictate. Whereas if you're the guest, you just sort of sitting there and like if someone asks you a question, you answer it, and that's it. So it's a lot less pressure when you're the guest, right?
Much less.
Much less. All right.
So host away.
But still, look. I went to basically the best international sports betting broadcasting school in the world in Switzerland, actually. So I should be better than this. So I'm going to step my game up. Thanks so much to AC for that comment on YouTube, on the YouTube channel yesterday. I welcome all legitimate criticism, haters. We like them also, and obviously the positive comments. All right, here's a comment. Someone says, this is one I caught right before we started going live. Logan Man says, if Teddy says the Rockies, I'm going to blow my brains out, LOL. And then Joe Everett seconded the LOL Teddy cover.
Sure. Well, what was the first thing I said when I walked into the office?
You're not going to pick the Colorado
I said, so help
Rockies
me God.
today. Yes.
Not the Rockies today.
You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of when there was one big team that went into KC, and I predicted that they were gonna possibly struggle there in KC. You know, when teams like was it maybe Houston? There was one series, and I really and I really impressed Drew Martin with my analysis of that. And you know, a lot of times you have a team like Colorado that's just great, you know, in most areas, and then they go across country into sort of like a more pitcher friendly park than normal, and certainly what they're used to. They can struggle significantly, and I find that teams like that. It also happens to teams that go into San Diego. When San Diego recently swept too, they swept someone at home.
The Cubs.
Yes, and also when teams go into KC, those kinds of things happen. And a lot of times it's very tempting to take the road team because they're like usually a great team, either as a small dog, as we saw this series, or as a very small favorite. And you're like, man, this might be great value, but it turns out a lot of times to be illusory.
Sure, but I mean, one thing you always have to remember, and I mean, it's something we say 1,000 times, but it's so true. Sports betting is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes.
You're going to lose bets. You're going to have wrong reads. It's inevitable.
Right.
You're not going to be right about everything, or you're already out of sports betting because you're a billionaire, and that's that. But so you have to recognize, you know, there's going to be fluctuations.
Yes.
There's going to be a series where you get everything wrong. As long as you manage your bankroll appropriately and don't go nuts trying to fire away, especially when you're not seeing things well, you can survive the everyday bumps and grind out a profit over the course of the season.
I think you're right. Absolutely. And the other thing that is tricky about sports betting is just because you lose or win a bet, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that you were on the right or wrong side of that bet.
No question.
Yes.
Yeah. And you talk about the concept of, you know, this team had a rough time here and that team had a rough time there. You know, that will happen.
Yes.
And when you can find those spots and isolate those spots, you can make a lot of money with them. You're talking about some nice underdog prices on some.
That's right. Having said that, I definitely feel like the Colorado Rockies game in the first game, the pick in the first one against Jameson Taillon was a bad pick. Teddy Covers. That's okay. We can.
Hey, look, and this is another piece of the truth of it.
Right.
You know, I'm normally in Las Vegas. I have a routine in Las Vegas. I do the same thing every single day.
Yes.
I'm unbelievably boring.
Yes.
In that regard. I mean, really, it's as methodical as it gets. And, you know, step 1, step 2, step 3. When you're out of town, it's not the same way. So I can't say right now I've got a great read on the MLB card. I don't. Because I'm not doing things the same way that I did them every single day for the first 2 months of the season. I'll do the best I can. I got some ideas, But is this Teddy Covers A++ MLB game? It's not.
Yes,
you know,
totally,
and that's the truth.
Totally agree with that, Teddy Covers. And yeah, there was one. Yeah, all right. Well, we won't talk about that. I was just going to say there was one college basketball season where I don't even remember what my process was. My process was working, and I came in first place on covers that year, college basketball.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
you're more than capable.
Then my next year I was like down like 20,000 units or something, and I was like, what the hell was I doing that 1 year? All right, so. Teddy Covers in MLB today. Let's see. We've got, all right. Well, the first thing that jumped out at me as probable low-hanging fruit, and I guess I will take it, is Atlanta at Washington, right? I expected Washington's bats to significantly pick up in this series. As I said before the series started, the first game, of course, didn't work out for them because Atlanta's bats woke up even more. Now we have Tehran against Rourke, and Rourke is not great right now, but he's definitely reliable. Tehran is very up and down, and when he's down, he's awful. Feels like, maybe Washington doesn't win this game, but if they do, they almost definitely win by more than one. And Washington on the -1 line or the run line is probably a good bet here. What do you think, Teddy Covers?
I mean, the thing with Rourke, all right, when you look at the national starting pitchers, Rourke is a guy that you're not going to have to lay $2, compared to your Strasburgs and your Scherzers and all of it. And yet the results are pretty consistently good.
Yes.
But when you look at Tehran's game log, man, I mean, the number one, the Braves don't win a lot of games, and they win for him. They win for him pretty significantly. And he's had he's been real good at home on a pretty consistent basis. Not all, he had a rough start to the season, and he also had a very bad start.
I think you mean on the road he's been great. At home he's where he's been getting hit, I believe. Yes.
Oh, I know he had the one really bad start against the Nats early in the season. Yeah. So that certainly works in my regard. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I botched it.
Yeah. No, that's okay.
There you go.
he's been good on the road, but I feel like
a strong split.
Yeah, I feel like his splits are a little bit due to a small sample size and variance, and it's more just the case that he's pretty vulnerable every start out right now.
But I do have a concern right now with the Nats in a very real way.
Yeah, me too.
And when it comes down to, I got to find this. I got a great quote from Dusty Baker that we used on Sportsbook yesterday. It was basically like, "I know my bullpen stinks. I don't know what the heck we're going to do about it." And if I can, I'm just scrolling down to see if I can find that. But it's a fantastic. It's a classic manager's ready to pull his hair out type of quote. Where he's saying, it's I don't know if it's going to get any better,
and we don't even have anything that we can try that we're thinking about. The other thing that concerns me about Washington's offense is, I know that Harper was that they've had some guys who are out, but their offense overall, according to my numbers, has actually been a little bit subpar over the last 30 days. Now, that's just what my numbers say. Obviously, if you look at the names down the lineup, you're thinking this is a powerful, awesome offense, and obviously they started off the season tremendously, but over the last 30 days. I have their overall offensive numbers as not being that great.
And that's one of the things that you really want to pay attention to as the season progresses, because you're going to see season-long numbers all the time.
Yes, exactly.
Season-long numbers say, this team's great at X, Y, or Z. And then you look at current form, and they're not.
Right.
And you're going to find, especially, I don't think that the Nationals' offense is likely to suffer a long-term decline, but you'd rather be laying a run and a half with them or a run with them when they're rolling than when they're not. I found that Dusty, you got to hear this quote. It's beautiful. Dusty Baker. Come on, man. How many times have we covered this before? I'm serious. He's talking about his bullpen. It's been a case-by-case basis every day. We need some help.
Oh, my God.
We need some help big time. We've been knowing that all along. So I wonder if that quote was for the guys upstairs as much as it was for the guys in the media.
Or, I mean, managers try to play psychological games with their quotes all the time, so you always have to take their quotes with a grain of salt. But yeah, it's not a good sign that their numbers have not been good, and that at least on the surface of that quote, Dusty Baker seems to be saying that they have no answers. So yeah, but that's why I'm sorry. Go ahead. All right. So having said all that, of course, with almost any sports bet, you can make a good case against betting the side you want to bet, which is why there might be some value with it. I will take Washington -1 here. Low hanging fruit of the day. Also, a big factor here is that the line is kind of modest, right? As you said, you're not having to take like minus 180 or 200 work. You're getting minus 160. So this will be the low-hanging fruit of the day. The money line part of that will be minus 160 at the Greek, and the run line part of that will be plus 125 at plus 130 at the Greek. So that works out to a very modest line. I think that would be like minus 120 or something like that for Washington, -1. And I am still a believer in Washington's offense, although their numbers over the last 30 days are troubling, right?
Troubling.
Yes.
But not
right.
Death knell. You know?
Right, exactly. And there's so many ways Washington could win this one by a margin. If Tehran blows up, they win by a margin. If Washington has a huge day, they win by a margin. And Atlanta's offense can be shut down. And if Rourke comes in and has a 7-inning, 1-run start, which is entirely possible, Atlanta, Washington probably wins by a run there as well.
And last but not least, the Braves bullpen is equally capable of blowing up as the national.
All right, Teddy Covers, thank you. Great analysis here. You've given me a lot more confidence about making this my low-hanging fruit of the day. Washington -1 with Rourke against Tehran, low-hanging fruit of the day. And again, the most important thing in sports betting is if the pick loses, will you, as you sit here right now, will you be okay with it? I will be. I'll lose, a unit and a quarter. It'll be okay, right?
I hope so.
All right, Teddy Covers.
If you can't take a unit and a quarter loss, it's going to be a long season.
That's right.
Because they're going to happen.
Teddy Covers, there's a couple of other games I'm thinking about, picks I'm thinking about. What has caught your eye as something you'd like to share with us today?
All right, again, we're not going low-hanging fruit in Colorado. This time I'm going to go low-hanging fruit in Philadelphia.
Really?
This is the one that stands out like a sore thumb.
For Boston or for Philly?
For Boston.
Okay, tell us why.
The Phillies stink. Okay, there's nothing to like about the Phillies. They've been a bottom feeder in recent seasons. They showed a little bit of signs in April, and since basically over the last 6 weeks, they've been the worst team in baseball. The offense, I mean, that's a lineup that really can't hit, and I don't see the potential for Philadelphia to suddenly step it up. And Hellickson is this guy that I've got fade all over. And especially against a Red Sox lineup that is potent. The Phillies had their chance last night, couldn't get it done. This is a Boston spot. And I know that Johnson's not a guy, you're talking about a fifth starter, a guy who only lasted 4 innings last time out. Prior to that, he'd thrown two strong starts. But last time out, he showed signs that people were getting to him. Yeah,
and his minor league numbers also suggested that he's not going to have success in the majors.
Sure, he's not an ace. Yeah, and that's why I'm only laying $1.30 instead of laying -$2. But honestly, I wouldn't even mind laying the 1.5 in that spot and taking a plus price. But low-hanging fruit is the Red Sox, -130. That one absolutely stands out.
That's interesting because Teddy Covers, at first glance, I looked at that game and I felt the exact same way. But looking into a little bit more, obviously Hellickson is terrible. I'm not a believer in Johnson at all. And Philly, maybe I'm just feeling this way because I had two plays on the Boston -1 line as my low-hanging fruit, and both of them pushed, right? But Philly has been playing close with Boston in this series, and now they're going up against, yesterday they went up against Price, and before that they went up against Porcello, who's, who are very, reliable starters who you can trust. Now they're going up against a starter who I don't trust. It's coming back at home, and Philly's getting a home dog line, so I pulled way off this one in terms of my feel. I didn't bet it on the overnight, and taking Boston here makes me a little bit scared, Teddy Covers. I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know.
You're like, what do you want me to say? How am I supposed to respond to that?
Well,
I don't know.
You're allowed to be nervous.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of times where I go to the window and I'm like, this is a lock. It can't possibly. You're always nervous. There's some level of discomfort making a bet.
That's part of the excitement.
Right? Sure. It is part of the excitement.
That's
I mean,
that's where the adrenaline comes from, baby.
No, the adrenaline comes from when you're holding on to a 1-run lead.
Yeah.
2 outs in the 9th and the bases loaded. And that's the beauty of baseball. That's the drama of baseball. But when you talk about the Phillies coming home off a really dismal road trip, they didn't get the day off.
Right.
They're playing a team that just beat them the last 2 days. And really, it's not like the Red Sox played their best. But for me, it just comes down to, do I trust the Phillies to score runs against anybody? I don't right now. I don't.
Do you trust Boston to get a reasonably comfortable win as a favorite after having just squeaked out wins at home with Price and Porcello? Yeah. You do. Okay.
That's why I make.
Okay.
I mean, what happened yesterday is not what's going to happen today.
That's true.
And I mean, you find that where bettors have the most trouble with that is the NFL. This is what I just saw, and therefore it's going to happen again this week. But even in I mean, you don't see that same level of I expect exactly what happened yesterday to happen today in baseball, but I don't put too much emphasis, unless there's a team that, their bullpen melted down or they have nobody and they have no fresh arms out of the pen. That's one instance where yesterday's game can really affect today's game. There is, certainly when you have a hot lineup, that carries over one day to the next. And when you have a cold lineup, that can carry over one to the next. And frankly, the Phillies have had a cold lineup for a while. And the Red Sox have had a relatively hot lineup.
All right, Teddy Covers. Yeah, you might be onto something here. And again, it was my first. My initial thought was I'm going to bet Boston every game this series. And tomorrow we have Sale going against Pivetta. So what's that line going to be? But obviously it's going to be tempting.
Over.
Yeah, it's going to be tempting to take Boston there. But all right, Teddy Covers. Let's see other games that have caught my eye here. One that's a little bit one of the smaller games. KC at San Francisco. KC is a team that I believe would have maybe some value in this series, and now they're having the pitching matchup is Hamill against Cueto. Hamill, of course, is very hittable long term. Although his last 2 starts, he's given up no walks. And he's really gotten his control his control problems under control, and he's gotten good results the last 2 games. Johnny Cueto has turned into a very mediocre starter, not terrible, but mediocre. And I would be leaning KC here, and I think a little bit more so KC on the second half at just -110 in case Hamill gets hit hard, which is entirely possible. KC's second half is pretty tempting to me, Teddy Covers. What do you think about that? Any opinion?
I don't mind KC first half. I don't mind KC game here.
That's a big underdog.
There's no way I'm laying this price with San Fran.
Right.
The Giants haven't played good baseball at any point of this season. The Royals, they won 3 in a row now, and hitting the ball on the West Coast, which is something that they haven't really done. What they scored 28 runs over the last 3 games, and they've been pounding the ball. And all the Giants have done all year is lose games at home, burn their backers' money. This price to me is way too high. There's no way I can look at San Francisco.
And KC's been excellent in June. San Francisco's been bad in June. KC was excellent in May as well. So I don't want to take them 2 ways. So I either have to make a decision, take them on the full game at the plus odds or the second half at -110, and I'll take him on the second half -110. I'll make that one an official pick. That's a little bit of a, I should have a few more balls here and give him at a +159 at the Greek. That's tempting there, Teddy Covers.
So the one time the Royals are 2-10 in Hamill starts this season.
Right.
Giants, he's a sub 500 Giants are 8-5 under Cueto.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to take KC second half -110 as another pick. Not low hanging fruit. That's just what I would consider to be a solid, reasonable, decent pick. Low hanging fruit again. Washington -1. Let's get this one, baby. Washington -1. And let's see what else is interesting here. All right, well, let's talk about Teddy Covers. I hinted at this guy as a guy that I'm sort of scratching my head about a little bit. Andrew Cashner for Texas, right? A guy who has diminished velocity, diminished stuff, certainly diminished peripherals, but getting decent results overall, right?
He's working around it.
Yes.
We talk about this sometimes. This happens to every pitcher. It's the guys that adjust and the guys that your Jamie Moyers, your Tim Lindsay.
Jamie Moyer, perfect example. Yeah, I remember when he went to Philly, when Philly was actually a huge hitter's park before they made the adjustments, and I was like, man, I'm just going to pound the hell out of overs. This guy's going to get crushed every start, and it didn't happen.
No, but he took a fair bit of my money as well.
Yes,
I grew to hate Jamie Moyer.
No, don't hate
a good way.
No, I really see. I looked at those results, and I just looked in the mirror and I hated myself. I turned it on myself because I was like, should I have been able to see this? Should I have been able to forecast that Jamie Moyer would not actually struggle as with diminished stuff in a hitter's park?
Yeah, but then once every 3 or 4 starts, he would get, he wouldn't make it out of the 3rd inning, and I just couldn't seem to time those right. So I got frustrated with him.
Yes,
I wasn't married.
Right. The question here is what to expect from Cashner going forward. What to expect from Cashner in this game. And Houston's starter is no great shakes either. He's a minor leaguer making his 2nd major league appearance. He didn't have he had fine stats in the minors, but not overpowering stats that would indicate that he's going to struggle in the majors. His first appearance was an extended relief appearance where he gave up a bunch of runs. So this guy Marquez for Houston is not inspiring either. What do we expect from Cashner here? And maybe if we expect Cashner to continue to do well, another play on Texas, a big dog is warranted.
I certainly wouldn't talk out of the Rangers today. I mean, for me, it's a priori. I'm not laying a price with Houston here. They're 2-6 in their last 8 games. This was the most profitable team in baseball. And they made everybody a bunch of money, and they got a big bandwagon. And what's going to happen inevitably over the course of the season, you're going to have your ebbs and flows, and they're in a down flow right now. Where they scored 3 runs over the last 2 games.
Yeah.
At home, nothing doing lineup wise. And here you have Cashner again. The markets one thing that I really like to look for is starters who are pitching effectively. Maybe it's luck, maybe it's guile, maybe it's whatever, but the markets hate them. The markets look at the advanced metric numbers, say this guy stinks, and the markets hate Andrew Cashner right now. And yet all he's doing is cashing tickets. And here's the Rangers that are playing, I don't know if they're the best ball of the year, but they certainly played good ball. I don't know, what's it now, 5 in a row? Over quality teams.
Absolutely.
And that's a streak that I'm either riding or leaving alone. I'm not stepping in front of Texas today.
So I was thinking about maybe a shot with Houston on the second half at -105, but I will hold off on that one for now. Yeah, and another just remember when the Cubs had their their huge World Series season last year, and most of the season obviously they were a great bet, and even on their run lines, even they had a stretch during the All-Star break where they were just a terribly losing team. It was clear that you wanted to at best stay off them, and maybe even better bet against them, and that was one of the best teams in history last year, right?
Sure. I mean, they go about 6 and I just remember 6 and 15.
Something,
their last 21
something horrific
prior to the break.
Right.
And they burned everyone.
Yes.
For weeks.
So although they didn't burn me, because when I see stuff like that happen to elite teams, I try to jump on those trains pretty quickly, or at least become aware of them.
Yeah, and that's the advantage. I mean, when you're breathing baseball, when you're watching the games every night, when you're paying attention to the results, you pick up stuff on that a lot quicker than when you're maybe watching SportsCenter and trying to get a little bit of a feel for what's going on. If you're breaking down the card every day, game by game, you're going to see these trends, these teams changing form. And it's the morphing teams that I like to make money on. Those are my favorites.
Yes.
The ones that were good and now they're not so good, or the ones that were bad and now they're stepping up. Morphers are where the markets are most off. And when you can find a team that's morphing, those are teams you want to ride either on or against day after day after day until the markets catch up.
That was kind of psychedelic, dude. I like that one. Yeah, there's a mystical aspect to the sports handicapping. Which teams are shape-shifting at the moment? Yes, absolutely. Houston, look, until further notice, something's up with them, right? A bunch of losses in a row. So I'm going to stay off them today. And then another here. Let's get your take. Teddy Covers, one of the most interesting guys from a handicapping perspective, from an advanced stats perspective, from a sabermetrics perspective. Irvin Santana getting some nice results. Not every start, but maybe 2/3 or 3/4 of his starts are friggin' unbelievable, right? Shutouts, and he does get hit about 1/3 of the time or about 1/4 of the time. How long can he keep this up, or was he likely to keep this up?
I mean, yeah, he said basically 3 bad starts all year.
Right.
And every other start's been a freaking gem.
Yes.
I mean, a gem. But the 3 bad starts were all bad.
Yeah.
I mean, really bad. That being said, I mean, it's a Twins team that's a 3-4 in his last 7. They scored 20 yesterday.
Yeah. And that's interesting because
look at that total.
Yes, we talked about this series.
Like
in game 1 and game 2, we were like, what's up with these Seattle, Minnesota totals? 10.5, 11, and obviously look what happened. So maybe we're getting to that point in the season where there's going to be a radical adjustment in scoring, and the markets will bump the totals up a half run or a run and not be close to being where they should be bumping them up.
One of the things we have with both of these teams is bullpen issues, and especially with the Twins. But again, I mean, the Mariners ran through everyone they had last night.
Yeah. So I was thinking about another over here, and I was thinking about Seattle, about timing a bad start with Santana. But that is something I've done a few times this year, and I think one time I did it correctly. The other 2 or 3 times I did it, I got burned on it. So I'm not sure if I want to time a bad start by Santana, but that's what I'm tempted to do.
Well, the one thing with Santana, okay, when you look at the advanced metric stats, one number just jumps off the page. His BABIP, batting average on balls in play. When you look at the last 5 years, the pitcher who was basically batting average on balls in play is a little bit of a luck factor there. You're hitting it at somebody or you're hitting it in the gaps. And his batting average on balls in play is the lowest of any pitcher in baseball over the last 5 years. So obviously there's a correction coming with that particular stat. That being said, he's coming off a complete game 4-hit shutout against
90 pitches,
91 pitches. I mean, he's another guy with a lot of guile right now, and not someone who I'm in necessarily a rush to stand in front of. I haven't played a lot with Santana because I know that he has to regress.
Right.
And yet he hasn't done it a whole lot. He's still been, more good starts than bad. So I'm not playing the Mariners.
Okay. Another game I'm thinking about that's interesting here is the Cubs at the Mets. Now, the Cubs, obviously, a huge offensive explosion yesterday. Montgomery is starting, and he's a lefty who is, converted to reliever who has not done that well. And Harvey is starting to do a bit better, right? Starting to give you some 5-inning starts that are decent quality here. I'm thinking about maybe the Mets team total over, which is currently just 4 at Heritage, and then a shot with the Cubs to come back late against that terrible Mets bullpen and take the Cubs on the second half, which would be about -135. Harvey is not the kind of guy who goes deep. He goes, 5 innings, and Montgomery probably won't go deep either. And I believe, according to my numbers, the Cubs bullpen has been getting a little bit better of late. Let me just check to make sure that that's accurate. But that's an interesting game there. Obviously, the Cubs have been a team that have burned some people. Certainly, even people who thought they might, obviously were due for regression because of their World Series season last year. I doubt many people thought they would be one of the bottom 5 teams in ROI this year, although maybe they did. What's your take on the Cubs in general? Because, Teddy, we're only going to have you on this show one more day tomorrow. What's your general take on the Cubs going forward the next month or 2 months or 3 months?
And the funny thing about the Cubs is they're a team that I really don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yes.
Part of me really thinks that the switch may not flip on the same way this year. I know that their starting pitching is not going to be what it was last year.
Yeah.
And that may be the bigger issue. My question is whether that lineup's going to come alive. And everyone,
it's got to, Teddy.
It does.
It's just got to.
It does, which means that we should be cashing a bunch of Cubs over tickets.
Yes.
Because I do not trust that staff. When you look at the pitching that they had last year that carried them to the World Series title, there's not one guy who's better this year than last year. And defensively, they're way down from where they were a year ago.
Yeah.
So, that lineup's such a juggernaut. Why haven't they hit?
I don't know.
Why haven't they hit?
I have 2 little angels at home, and one is a big Cubs fan, and he came up to me. He's a 4-year-old, adorable kid. He came up to me. He was asking me that just last night. He was like, Peter, are the Cubs going to start hitting again soon? And I just hugged him, and I said, they've got to. They've just got to, right?
Meanwhile, the Mets are 2-8 in Harvey's last 10 starts.
All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take it. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to take the Mets team total over, which currently is 4 at -125 at Heritage, and at Pinnacle is 4.5 at plus money. I'm going to take the Heritage line at 4 -125, and I'm going to take the Cubs then to maybe put something together late on the second half, and I believe it is -135. Yes, the Cubs second half -135. That's a little bit steep. I do believe, though, that the Cubs have a nice bullpen edge here, and I also think that the Cubs, late. I'm a believer in the Cubs offense at some point. At least this game, Teddy covers, right?
Sure. I mean, I think Harvey's hittable.
Yes.
I'm not looking at Matt Harvey now as anywhere near the guy who was blowing away. Again, last time out, he threw 5 innings of shutout ball. Took him 104 pitches.
All right, Teddy covers. I'm going to take 2 picks there. The Mets team total over 4 to put something up against Montgomery, and then the Cubs second half -135. Adding that to KC second half -110, and the low hanging fruit of the day, Washington -1. Teddy covers. Is there anything else that has caught your eye that we haven't maybe touched on? Let's see what else is interesting. Odorizzi and Liriano. I had a good call on Tampa Bay.
Great call yesterday.
Yes. Today, I'll tell you what my sense is. Again, I'm kind of leaning Tampa Bay just because I think the line is just a little bit too high. Not that I think that they're in a great spot to get a win, but that I'm not quite seeing why they should be +140 here. And the other, this is just one of those, you see this in MMA a lot, and some, it's like I see both teams as really good. So betting against Toronto is not something I want to do, but I don't see them as having a significant edge over Tampa Bay here. But the market is giving them a somewhat significant edge.
And the money's coming on Toronto this morning.
Right.
I mean, it really has. So if you like Tampa a little bit, or then you maybe like them a little more right now because you're getting a plus return, even though you're going against, obviously, I mean, what's your opinion on that, Peter?
On what?
I never get to ask you questions.
Oh, yeah, there's a reason for that because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. How would you ask?
Well, no, when the steam comes, okay, when the line moves 20 cents, would you rather be on that game at, let's say it goes from -140 to -160?
Yeah.
Would you rather be on the favorite at -140 or the dog after the move? Let's go say -160 to -170 at +160. Would you rather be? Do you understand the question?
Yes, you're asking would I rather? You're asking, do I trust the opener more than the movement?
Yes,
is what you're saying.
Sure.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Teddy covers. Teddy covers.
Oh.
All right. Let's see. I would rather be on the opener. Actually, I would rather be on the opener. I trust the opener more than the move. I'm sorry. No, I'd rather be on the. I trust the opener more than the move.
Gotcha.
So the reason for that is because I talked to anyone who's a regular viewer of the Into the Weekend with Bet DSI shows that I've been doing for years knows that some of these moves are absolutely caused by sharp money, by the Billy Walterses of the world, and they are correct. A lot of moves, though, are actually not. They're caused by sometimes just big bettors who break even, or what we call oil money, which is just guys who have made a ton of money in oil and I just want to bet on Texas A&M or whatever. There are a lot of moves, and especially in baseball, in some smaller market like this, that are in fact not caused by sharp money. But Brent from BetDSI tells us all the time. He's like, when I take a maximum bet, from some guy, even if he's not a long-term winner, I usually have to respond.
Sure, because they don't want to be sided.
Right. So I trust the short answer to the question is I trust the opener more than the move. So I'd rather have the late line on the dog.
In which case you would
even
like
more.
Tampa.
Yes, absolutely. I'm also leaning.
Short story long.
You're right, and I'm also leaning towards the first 5 innings. I think both these guys are vulnerable here to get hit. Although Toronto's a tricky place because Toronto, it's obviously a hitter-friendly park. We know that from the stats. It can be a launching pad for home runs, but a lot of games tend to go under in Toronto. I think last year they had a strong under record at home.
Yeah, and that had a lot to do with their starting pitch.
Right.
They kept on getting quality start after quality start last year. That hasn't always been the case this year.
I'm definitely leaning first 5 innings over here. It's just that it's 5. I think I'm going to keep that one a lean, but I'm going to hold off on that one as far as an official pick is concerned. All right, Teddy Covers, is there anything else we should talk about? Maybe we should get to some comments here.
Yeah. We got to see what people are ripping me about today.
Before we do that,
go ahead.
We're going to give away a little T-shirt today.
Oh, nice.
One of your special face T-shirts.
No, really?
Peter Loshak.
Oh, great.
You might as well give them away before you
cut. Yeah, I'm gonna have to cut my hair very soon.
So for those of you guys,
I'm doing the Metallica move. I have to, Teddy. If you saw the comments, the messages I've gotten from women, literally, there's one woman. Well, I don't want to turn this into an X-rated show, but
we're to get a T-shirt, how many people are watching right now, Peter?
Let's see. How many people are? 120. Yes, 120.
Right, so we need 100 likes on the video. And I need you to come back afterwards and comment on it and leave your best bet for tonight. And if we get both of those, we'll pick one of the comments out and send you a T-shirt.
Okay.
With Pete's face.
All right. Sounds great.
Collector's item.
Or he can leave you a lock of hair.
Jim Bean saying, keep your hair. Eric Torres asking, do you have Teddy T-shirts? Teddy, I mean, we're both funny looking people. And, if you made one of those drawings of you which was like a caricature, that'd be some pretty funny shit right there.
Probably.
You know what I'm saying?
But no, I don't have any Teddy Covers T-shirts. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not
All
yet.
right. Yes, let's see. A lot of Nathan Wilson says Toronto usually comes back hard after a big loss. How do you in team sports? I feel like that is clearly a factor that matters. In baseball, what's your take on someone like Nathan Wilson who says Toronto usually comes back hard after a big loss? Any thoughts on that?
I mean, what I like to do, look at the numbers. I mean, I don't want so some say usually. Let's look at the hard numbers, and I don't know what the hard numbers are on that right now, but I would look Toronto off a loss. And what have they done the last 5 times after a game? They come back and done well. What have they done the last 5 times at home off a game? And the answer to that is I don't know. I haven't spent a ton of time with that game, so
okay, yes,
I can't tell you.
Yeah, all right. So that is let's see, we got it.
But the basic point is opinions. Sure, the hard numbers matter.
Yes. Okay. Here's another. Regular viewers of our show know that there's this guy Huang Zhou from China. Great, makes the funniest comments I've ever read in the past month. And Huang Zhou now made a comment. His comment is, "My father wants to know you mustache for real or not?" Yes, for real. Me mustache for real. Absolutely. Huang Zhou.
I was thinking too if the bread died.
Everything, yeah. Huang Zhou said that if, in very funny broken English, that if the Yankees won with Masahiro Tanaka, he would not eat rice for an entire month, and they did win, and now he's got to be eating, and now he's eating bread for an entire month. He's a man of his broken word. Huang Zhou from China. Thanks so much. Yes, really.
Yes, that is correct. The shirt giveaway is only for YouTube.
Shirt giveaway, only for YouTube.
Watch it on Facebook. Chris Carr had a question. Do you guys see any values in the Dodgers?
That's an interesting game. Let's find that one. Yeah, I quickly. It's McCarthy against Kluber. Kluber has obviously been coming back, came off the DL, and is the real deal right now. McCarthy's been great as well. The Dodgers are getting a big underdog line here, so it's tricky. I have no play on that one, no opinion on it. Teddy Covers, what do you have to say?
I don't want to stand in front of Kluber.
Yeah.
There's a lot of value on McCarthy at that price.
You think so, huh?
I do. But it's not what I'm going to get to the window with.
Right.
Kluber's not a guy I have any interest in standing in front of. So.
And you can't take the second half because Cleveland has almost as good of a bullpen as the Dodgers, 2 of the best bullpens in baseball.
Yeah, doesn't that total look a little high?
It does. It does. It did. Yes. Again, I'm not gonna touch that one either, because either of those guys. I mean, you know, when you're talking about a total of 8 or a first half of 4, you know, it's an interesting game. Sometimes the market nails it, or it's a game where you just don't have a good read on, and that one is I think might be both. I think the market might have nailed it, and I don't have a good read on it. So yeah,
but
that's a total pass.
Among Dodger starters, McCarthy's a guy that I like. I think he's someone you can make money with. And you know, coming off a gem against the Nats last time out, 87 pitches for 7 innings. You know, so he's keeping his pitch counts down.
All right, let's see. Any other comments here? I'm just God. We got to in the future. We're gonna have to somewhat, because it takes. There's so many good comments, and the problem is they all go away after. Let's see. Hey Pete, Rich Banks says, "Hey Pete, please ask Teddy if he knows any place in Vegas where you can wager second half baseball."
That's much more of an offshore thing than it's a Vegas thing.
Yes, similar to like matchup props in horse racing, which you can't bet at the which is my favorite way to bet the Triple Crown and horse race in general. That's all offshore, you know. All right, so let's see other comments. I'm just going to take about 30 seconds to look for comments.
To sort of double down on that question, you could check out the best MLB Sportsbook page on SBR.
Yes.
Yeah, our friend over here is going to post the link.
Best MLB Sportsbooks page will tell you, I believe, which offshore books have second half betting, and in Vegas, I believe that none of them do, right?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
Right. And I think the reason is because it's kind of a new market, and they're very careful. They're very risk averse in Vegas, as they damn well should be, and that's why there can be a lot of value still on the second half bets currently. Right?
And it's funny because that second half betting is something that I haven't done a whole lot. So for MLB. You know, in-game is one thing. Second half, pre-game, I don't know if I've ever made a second half.
Yeah, it's something that I sort of got into when they started offering it, and I kind of like it. All right, let's.
Pretty much you're betting against starting pitcher and bullpen.
Right. Yeah, you're betting on how you believe bullpens and how you believe the game is likely to unfold. Absolutely. All right. So let's see. A lot of people saying Cueto's going to get his groove back against San Francisco. Perhaps so, but I'm on the second half there, -110. A lot of people saying Hamill sucks. He does suck, although his last 2 games have been better. You know, he does suck, but he's not quite on the auto fade list right now, for sure.
Speaking of the auto fade list, Volquez. Way off at
I mean, yeah, actually, that was one of the overnight bets I made. Oh, that was a game that we didn't touch. It starts in an hour, touch on. But I took a shot with the under on the Oakland-Miami game. Gossett is a guy who does have some promising minor league numbers. And Volquez, listen, I bet the under. I got a good number. I got under 9 plus 100. Now it's down to a -120 or so on the under 9. And yeah, Volquez went from being, from the auto fade list to, look, he had a bad start to the season. Then he had a bunch of, better starts that I thought might have been a little bit, of a head fake. And then he throws a no-hitter. And then he throws another great start. So I think as of right now, we have to assume that Volquez going forward is going to be a reasonable starter, right?
Yeah, his start after the no-hitter was more surprising.
Yes. Because it shows that he has a good mental constitution. He didn't suffer a letdown. His stuff didn't suffer a letdown. Whatever he's doing is sustainable and consistent. So kudos to you, Edinson Volquez.
And that was one of those deals where I went back and I had the theory. Oh, you don't want to bet the guy off the no hitter.
Right.
And then I went back. Which is a real theory. Yeah, and then I went back and actually did the work. And you know what it is? Random.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that true?
It's not a straight fade. It's not a bet on. It's pretty close to 50.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went back. I think I went back 8 years.
Okay.
And it was essentially a coin flip.
Okay.
There were some pitchers that ended up being bet on, and so yeah. Well, that's what I mean. When I get curious, when I get a question that I think, that I'm kind of spouting out something that I've heard, and the standard sports betting mantra, oh, don't bet on a guy off a no-no, and I said it out loud, and I'm like, is that real?
Yeah.
So, and I always want to do the research and find that out.
Because I feel like I did look at, I feel like I did look into that from a historical perspective and found that it was something real. But then I also might have looked into that 8 years ago. So things might have changed drastically since then. All right, I guess we can wrap this up. Again, I have 4 picks. I'm taking 2 bets on the Cubs-Mets game. I'm taking the Mets team total over 4 -125. That's at Heritage. And the Cubs second half -135. I'm taking KC second half -110. And the low-hanging fruit of the day, Washington -1 against Tehran. And, I guess that's about it. Other plays I'm thinking about, the under 9 in Oakland-Miami for sure. The first 5 innings over in Toronto-Tampa Bay, Odorizzi-Liriano. That's definitely a play I'm thinking about. And I guess those are really the only other 2. Yeah, go ahead.
From Jansen. Wants to know, what was it? How many books you guys think, I mean, maybe not should have, but how many books is good for you to have, you know, the line shop specifically?
I mean, as many as you can get. Obviously, if you, before you get shown the door by the rec books, you want to take as many of those as you can, right?
Yes.
If you can play at Bodog, play there. If you can play at Five Dimes, play there. And if you can't, you know, that's okay too. You got to have, you know, Pinnacle, and then pretty much all of them, you know, as many as you can.
All of them.
But that's, go ahead.
I mean, well, in Vegas, it's not an issue, obviously, because you have apps on your phone, and boom, boom, boom. You have, or you can go around to any book that you want. When you don't live in Vegas, I would say a minimum of three.
Yeah.
You know, and you were talking about the three. You know, you want a reduced juice shop, you want a square shop, you want a sharp shop, and what that's going to the difference in your bottom line will stun you.
Yes.
Will stun you if you're an accurate record keeper. When you have the difference between having one out and having 3 outs.
Yes.
It's extraordinary. And of course, you can get the SBR page have bonuses. You get free money when you sign up. So I would encourage you to check out those pages and sign up.
At what point will it stun? It won't stun you after 1 week, but I would say after 2 months, that's when the stunning really
sure. Well,
kicks in.
you look at it over the course of 100 plays.
And you're like, holy shit. Yes.
And you're like, that made a big difference because you're winning games by a half point instead of losing them by a half point. You're getting the extra 5 or 10 cents on bet after bet after bet. And that's just, you know, in baseball. You know, instead of laying 180, you're laying 175. Instead of, you know, taking plus 175, you're taking plus 180. Just with the concept of this book's a little bit different from that book.
Yeah.
3 minimum, and frankly, you should have as many as you can.
Yeah.
And check out our best sportsbook page again on sportsbookreview.com if you're looking to open up a new book.
The other pick I was thinking about was Milwaukee on the second half at -115, but I think I will. I think I'm gonna hold off on that one for now. St. Louis does have a pretty decent pen, but that's one I'm thinking about. Milwaukee on the second half. I'll keep that one just as a lean right now. But actually, you know what? I think Garza might be vulnerable here, and I think Milwaukee might pull away late. I will throw that one on there. Milwaukee second half -115. I'll throw that one on there as well.
The longer these shows go.
Yes, the more irresponsible my pick adding gets. You know, I start off the shows with my low hanging fruit after the first 5 minutes. Those are killer, and then as the minutes wear on, more and more negative EV picks start.
You know, we keep you in the positive.
Yeah.
You get like a little egg timer right
here. Yeah, exactly. Just let me give my low hanging fruit, and then just have some bouncers just pick me up out of the chair and just bring me outside. Be like, and that's it. Pete's low hanging fruit. One pick of the day. His ramblings are now off camera. His questionable EV ramblings are now off camera, where no one except other people in the office can hear. All right, I guess that's about it. Teddy Covers, you want to any final words or?
Yeah, my low hanging fruit today is not the Rockies. Boston Red Sox. No, let me ask you this: when it comes to low-hanging fruit, or with the lines in general, you give out the book that you betted at, right, at that number, or the best number available there, or do you give out a market number? Because the market number is -130 or so.
I give out what I do is I give out the best line at a selection of high volume books. Like I don't use Five Dimes or Bodog. I think that's kind of cheap. Although if you can play there, you definitely should. I give out the best line of like Pinnacle, Bookmaker, the Chris Books, BetOnline, SportsBetting.ag, and the Greek. And sometimes I'll throw.
What do we got for the Red Sox?
For the Red Sox, the best line out of those would be line shopping. This is exactly what you do. Let's say you have accounts at all those books. You shop. The best line would be at the Greek -129. Now, Five Dimes has 128, and if you have an account at Five Dimes, you bet there. But for the purpose of our record keeping, I won't count 128. If I want to take Boston today, I would credit myself with -129 at the Greek.
Explain that quickly. Again, a bit more.
Okay, so basically, I've got all the books here that I consider for the. Okay, so right.
I mean the Five Dimes.
The Five Dimes, right? Okay, so Five Dimes is a book that, like, some books have purposefully outlier lines for various reasons, right? You have Five Dimes that has purposefully outlier lines because they offer extremely reduced juice. You have Bodog that has purposefully outlier lines because they're an extreme rec book. And then you have a book like SIA that has purposefully outlier lines, again, because of their own their risk management strategy. Now, the issue with those books is that if you start beating them, as is their right, they will not let you bet those lines anymore. But until they do that, you should absolutely bet them. But so for the purposes of my record keeping, where I want to use like lines that are where you can get it down a high volume and that are, you know, long term market, you know, based line that I'm talking about, I only use books like Pinnacle and Chris and BetOnline, SportsBetting.ag, and the Greek books that are, you know, will tend to let you play there longer. Obviously, Pinnacle,
when you're winning.
Yeah, Pinnacle, you can win as much as you want forever. You know, some of the others, Heritage will limit you in certain ways. I've even heard that Chris in certain ways will limit you on props and stuff. But so I use like high volume books and use the best line out of those books. I don't know if I explained that too.
Yes, thank
you. Actually, I thought it was
okay.
good.
Yeah,
good explanation.
Okay.
It made sense to me.
All right. So, and of course, I have all these books lined up here at SBRodds.com. It's highly customizable. First one is Pinnacle, and Heritage, Bookmaker, DSI, BetOnline, SportsBetting.ag, The Greek, and then after that, 5 Dimes, Intertops, GT Bets, and which I don't include in my line quoting here. All right. So yeah, Teddy Covers. I'm religiously honest. A lot of guys would quote a Bodog line and be like, "That's my record," and it's only half cheap because if you can play at Bodog, you should bet that line, right? But it's just half cheap because it's not really a market line. Like I could offer you, $1 and give you Boston at plus 500, and you would bet it, but that doesn't mean that Boston at plus 500 can count as a market line. Right?
Sure, exactly.
Right.
And then that's when as far as on Sportsbook, for example, we always try to, because we don't want to go to a specific book.
Right.
We want to give them a broader idea of the market. We go, okay, the market and the basic market number is this.
But at the same time, you can't say my friend offered me plus 500, so I'm going to quote plus 500 here. Yeah.
Sure. Exactly.
All right, so I guess that's about it. Again, I've got 5 picks today. I just added Milwaukee's second half, and my leans would be Tampa Bay, Toronto, first 5 innings over, and also a lean to the under 9 in Oakland, Miami. I guess that just about wraps up a 45-minute show today, but we covered a lot of the big card, and we will be back tomorrow with the reduced Thursday card, right, Teddy Covers?
Cheers.
Thanks so much, Teddy.
Thank you for watching.